Welcome to episode 107 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. Today I'm excited to introduce you to Jim Cermak. He's a passionate marketing expert and the energetic host of the Trade Show University podcast. Jim's lifelong love affair with trade shows began over 30 years ago when he attended a candy industry event and felt like stepping into Willy Wonka's factory. Since then, he's helped hundreds of companies, especially small businesses, to unlock the full potential of trade shows and maximize their investment and impact on the show floor. For Jim, trade shows aren't just about booths and swag, they're about energy, human connection, and opportunity. His purpose today lies in empowering exhibitors to thrive in these high-stakes environments by helping them to develop the right mindset, deliver crystal-clear messaging, and create meaningful engagement with attendees. Whether it's training teams or launching his upcoming Trade Show University learning platform, Jim finds tremendous purpose in helping others to succeed, especially when it could be a make-or-break year for them. To tell us more about what gives his life meaning and purpose, please welcome Jim Cermak to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Jim. I really appreciate the time. You are involved in trade shows, which is something that I participated in forever in my career as a journalist. I think that some years I was at 20 different trade shows. How did you fall in love with this?
Oh my gosh. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be here with you, Greg. And trade shows, wow. It started way back in my career. So I've been in marketing my entire career. I graduated from college in 1988, 88, 89, somewhere. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. So I graduated and I was in marketing. And I remember I went to my very first trade show. I worked for a candy company, Fannie Farmer Candies. For anyone who remembers, the Fannie Farmer brand was a huge brand at the time. I worked for them at their headquarters, and my boss said, "Hey, Jim, we're going to the Philadelphia Candy Show." And this was back in, I think, 1991 or 92. And that was back before the internet. So I had no idea what that was. I didn't know what it meant. Had no idea. I'm just like, I got to travel. So that was cool. And so we went to this thing and I fell in love. So you're talking about several 100,000 square feet of vendors, and it's just all candy and confections of every single type. It was like Willy Wonka's factory right there. And it was just the excitement of it. And I just fell in love with not just being able to taste candy. That was one part of it, but just the whole process of it, seeing the packaging and seeing all the new stuff. And everyone there was so excited to be there. And I just loved it. And then a couple of years later, I switched jobs. I was working for a trucking company. I went to my first trucking trade show, and I was not all that excited to go to that because it's trucking, but I went there and saw the exact same excitement. All these companies that are they're there to talk about what's special about their company and why they do what they do. And it's all the newness, and I fell in love all over again. And then I was started to be responsible for trade shows, putting them on. And over the years, and that hasn't let up. So over the years, I have literally helped I've done hundreds of my own for whatever company I was working for. I had a marketing business for 5 years before the recession of 2008, 2009 really sunk that ship, but worked with dozens more companies on their shows. And I just love the whole opportunity. There's so many reasons why I love trade shows. One of it's the energy and the excitement. But I think the thing I love the most is that if you pick the right show, especially if it's a business-to-business show where you're in an industry, that your target audience is right in front of you and you have an opportunity to have a great, meaningful conversation with them. And with a lot of them, if you do it over the course of a day or two and try to do that just by picking up the phone or emails or anything, it's just impossible to do. That's where the love came from. Oh, just years and years of doing these and figuring out how to do them better. And I love it. I love going to them. I love the smell of fresh carpet going in. And everything about it. It's just, I'm weird that way, but I do love this. I do love the events.
There is an energy at trade show that is palpable. You can really tell, especially if it's good, when you get all the industry players there together and they're focused on the same goal, is to promote the industry and make it stronger and make their companies stronger. And most importantly, the networking that takes place at these shows is pretty impressive.
Ah,
Do you help people who are attending the shows, or are you focused more on the exhibitors?
I'm really focused on the exhibitors. So,
Okay.
being an exhibitor myself for so many years, I got to know and understand how to get the best results every time. And now, after all these years, I go to shows and I could tell you right away who's not going to have a very good show. Just by looking either at their booth or looking at the people and how they're standing, how they're reacting to people as they go by, how they're engaging with people. And there's a reason why you could have two booths of the exact same size, same number of people working at their booths. One of them will come away going, "That was the best show we've ever done," and then that one next to him going, "That was such a waste of our time." And it's
Mhm.
all having to do with how they prepare and how they're engaging with people, how they're presenting themselves. So there's a science to it. And I love working with these exhibitors, especially the smaller guys, the small companies, small businesses, or people who are doing it for the very first time. I like to think of I'm the kind of like their unfair advantage,
Mm.
their secret weapon, because I can help them present like they've been doing this for years, even if it's their very first time going. And these smaller companies, they have so much that they invest and put on the line versus those big companies that have the mammoth booths. This is one show of many that they're doing during the year and they got a budget for it. And so if they screw up, yeah, it's not that big of a deal for them. But if the small business screws up, this could be make or break their year. So that's why I love doing it with the exhibitors. On the attendee side, I like giving attendees a lot of tips or how to make the most out of the show, but my main focus is working with exhibitors.
Okay, and that's a very good thing to focus on, because trade shows are so darned expensive to exhibit at.
They are.
And it's
They
just,
are.
you can talk thousands of dollars. I've
Oh,
been to some of these things. I stopped exhibiting at trade shows because it was hard for me to cover them as a journalist and also
oh,
be in my booth. And then it was expensive to bring somebody in to sit at the booth and babysit it while I
sure.
was out covering the shows. But my goodness, do you help these exhibitors plan their displays?
A
Okay.
lot of times I'll get a call. They're 6, 8 months out and they're like, "We just invested in this big show and we need someone's help. We want to make sure that we make the most out of it." That was one of my most recent clients was a company. They were going to a mammoth show, a home builder show out in Las Vegas, and they invested a ton of money. They have a lot of people there. They have a huge display, and this is a show that is going to bring in probably 100,000 or more attendees. But it's their target audience. And so they really they said, "Jim, we need your help making sure that we get a solid ROI on this show." And so I love working with them, but they had everything already set. So they reached out to me just a few weeks before the show. And there wasn't anything we could do with their display pieces, but it was all about training their people,
Hmm?
putting them in the right mindset that, hey, you have one chance. That person, this is a mammoth show. It literally had 4 different exhibit halls at the Las Vegas Convention Center. So it's a big, so 4 different halls. I said, if someone walks past your booth, they may not walk past your booth again.
Right.
So you cannot let them walk past. You've got to grab their attention, bring them in, qualify them. So everything from just let's make sure you've got everything right and get your team trained the right way and have everything set all the way back to several months or even a year ahead of time. And we need help figuring out our display. We need help figuring out our messaging, our marketing, who we're going to bring to the show, how many people we should bring to the show, should we
Mhm.
sponsor the show? So anything in between, just getting started to they need some help just making sure that they are executing the right way. So
Sure.
everything in between. Yeah.
It always frustrated me when I'd go to these trade shows and see people behind these booths where they pay thousands of dollars to have the booth space and then hundreds of dollars to put the furniture and things like that in there. And the people at the booth are sitting there on their phones,
Uh-huh.
scrolling through as all of their clients are walking past them. It's just
Yep.
really crazy. So when you talk about training the exhibitors, that's one of the things I'm sure you have to do, or get them to
Oh,
realize how important it is to be engaged.
Yeah, one of the biggest tips is, and I talk about a trade show mindset. I'm gonna have to do an episode on that. But a trade show mindset is understanding that your company made an investment in you to go to this show. And you, unless you're the business owner, someone is paying for you. And in certain case, some cases it might just be, I get a day out of the office. It's a local small business expo, but it's a full day, and they're paying for your meals and stuff like that. But you're there to represent them. And in other cases, they're flying you to Vegas. They're putting you up for several days. They're paying for all your meals and all that good stuff. And you need to understand you're there for a reason. You're there to work the show and to get results for your company. You're not there to check out the next show or hit the casino or anything like that. Now, if you've got a little bit of spare time, fine. The outside of the hours of the show, but when you're there, you've got to be on and forget about your day job. Now, you might be a salesperson, you've got 18 deals that you're working. Those can wait until after the show or when you're back to your hotel room. But when you're at the show, on the show floor, stay off your phone and interact with those people, because even if it slows down, you pull out your phone and you start scrolling and you're looking at emails, and now all of a sudden people walk past that could be your number one bucket list customer, and they see you on your phone and they don't even want to interact with you. They just walk right by and you missed it. Yes, 100% in exactly what you're saying, Greg, is that you can't be on your phone. Got to be engaging. You got to realize why you're there. So that's a lot of what I do, is just coaching these teams and helping them understand, look, this is a huge investment they're making on you. Either at the end of the show, you're going to say, hey, boss, you made a great investment to have me there because we just rocked it. Or you're probably not going to say this, but you know that they did not make a good investment to have you there. Someone else should have been there.
And
Yeah.
I can imagine that having the right message is also so important. And I remember participating in a trade show in the education industry once, where I
Okay.
had scrimped on the display itself. It looked so unprofessional compared to everybody else. It was no wonder it was a horrible show and I never got
Oh.
anything out of it. But that was back in my 30s when I was young and stupid and doing things like that to save money. People don't realize that this can make or break a year for somebody by
Oh,
exposing them to everybody at once.
yeah, absolutely. And I love talking to someone who's been there, done that.
That's right.
But yeah, you were so right. It's the messaging. And the way I tell people is, I said, you have to treat your display and your messaging like a billboard and not a brochure. So if you're driving down the freeway at 65 miles an hour and you see that billboard, you have a split second to understand what it said and get what they're trying to tell you. Or else you're past there. And you and I can, and anyone listening or watching this, next time you're driving, look at the billboards, and there's going to be so many. You go, I have no idea what company that is. I don't know what they're trying to tell me to do. It's a great looking hamburger, but I have no idea what restaurant that is or where you're located. You have to treat a trade show the same way, because people are walking briskly through these shows. They don't have time to stop at every single booth, and they don't want to. And they're scanning your booth and they're trying to figure out, do I stop here? Do I stop? Is there a reason why I should stop at your booth right now and talk to you? And if your message is confusing, or if you're putting way too many words on the display, they're not going to read them. You don't have to do that. Be very clear and concise with your message, but give them a reason to stop. And if it doesn't look that good, like you said, if it looks unprofessional, like it was slapped together, or you really you took the budget route to put your booth and display together, and it doesn't take that much money to have a professional looking display today. There's so
Not
many great
anymore.
options.
No, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, back in the day it was harder. There weren't that many options, but now today there's so many wonderful options and things that can get turned around fairly
You can
quickly.
get
So
these roll-up screens made for a couple of $100s at the local
it's
print
amazing.
shop, right? And it
Yeah,
used to be you
yeah,
had to hire a photographer and go out and develop all these things,
right.
and it was just thousands of dollars to do a display
Oh
that
yeah.
can be almost as good with just a couple
Yeah.
$100 today. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, it's definitely important there's so many things that you got to get right. But the number one thing is definitely at the end of the day, it's people. You could have the worst looking booth, but if you have good people that are engaging with the attendees and bringing them in and asking them the right questions, you can overcome a lot of the mistakes that we made
Right.
in creating our booth. Yeah.
Another mistake that I saw as a journalist is that the third day of the show, everything slowed down a bit. And so
Yeah.
did the people at the booth. I tried to stop at every booth to find out what was new,
Oh,
what new product were
okay.
they be introducing to the market, or what message were they bringing out that they would want me to promote as a journalist covering the show. And
Yeah.
it was surprising how many people just backed away from that third day and left their booths unattended, which is silly because it's a 3-day show. People might be busy and coming on that third day because it's the only day that they can get through there. So it's like you have to treat every day as though it's the first one.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's two things I want people to take away from what you just said. Number one, and this is another thing in my training, is that plan for when it's slow. Because there's going to be times when the show is slow, and it's definitely that last day of a multi-day show. It's always the slowest. Don't just stand there and go, wow, it's really slow today. And now you're on your phone, because then again, that top prospect could walk by on that last day when it's slow. It could be one of the few people walking past and you missed it or you blew it because they looked at it and said, I don't want to deal with someone who is they're just on their phone. I want someone who's engaged and positive and all that. So that's one thing. Second is, as a journalist, Greg, you were there to find stories.
Right.
And guess what? For any of you who are watching this today or listening, and you are a business owner or you are responsible for marketing, you're responsible for trade shows, or you're going to trade shows, understand that at every single trade show, I don't care if it's a small local business expo or a huge international show with tens of thousands of people coming, there's going to be someone from the media there. Whether it's a local newspaper or it's a radio station or it's an industry publication, or maybe it's a blogger or it's a podcast host, they are all looking for stories.
Exactly.
Find out who's going to be there. Get with the show organizer and say, hey, who from the media has come in the past? And then get those names of who's been there in the past, or if they know that, oh, Greg Gerber from Forward Over 50 is going to be here. He's going to be podcasting. I know he's probably going to be looking for stories. Then connect with those people and say, hey, I've got this company. We have something brand new that we're launching. Love to tell you about it. Can you stop by our booth? They will, because they're looking for stories. They don't want to have to hunt. If you make it easy for them, you're going to be the first people they want to come and visit. Because
Exactly.
no one does this. No one does this. This is a trick for anyone that's available available to anybody at these shows, any exhibitors. Sorry, I get so excited about this, but available for anybody to really, you can get a story, you can get national coverage for zero cost. You're already there. You just make a little bit of effort to see who's going to be there, invite them to your booth, have something fun to talk about, may have something to give to them. Here's our literature, here's our press packet, here's whatever it is, and make it easy for them.
In the early days of my career as a journalist in the RV industry, I would come to trade shows with suitcases or come back with suitcases full of materials. Toward the end of my career, everything was put on flash drives. So it's
Right.
just having that something that they can take with them, which would be the
Yeah.
press release, the photos of the products and things like that. That would be very helpful. Is there
Oh,
anything you can
absolutely.
do to encourage CEOs to see the value of being at a trade show for more than 30 minutes on the first day? Because I could never find CEOs and senior executives to talk to on the end of the second day and never on the third day.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult. I think a lot of them just don't understand. I don't want to say they don't see the value. They don't understand the potential. They don't understand the opportunities that they would have of being there to talk with someone like a journalist, or talk with someone, or be part of an industry panel, or be part of giving a talk, something like that. A lot of them, and this is still very true today, a lot of the senior level people, they have their team of people that is going to be there, and whether they don't want to be bothered with it, or maybe they just have other things going on, I don't know. Every person's obviously going to be a little different, but they don't see the true value being there for an entire show unless they have board meetings, industry board meetings they have to be part of, or they happen to be part of a panel discussion or something that's going to keep them around. But a lot of them just come in, they stick around for a little bit to maybe take those press shots
Shake a
and
few hands,
and
right?
shake hands and with some of their buddies, and then they leave.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what to say to people is we've got to figure out what is of value. Why should they stick around? And that is up to also people that are responsible for the show. Maybe it's their marketing people that says, "Hey, I've scheduled 7 interviews for you, and if you could stick around for the entire show, it's going to be more than well worth it." So they've got to understand the value, and it's hard to do that if you're just looking at it from the surface, looking from the outside in.
Should the trade show booth or the trade show experience be an opportunity to close sales, or is it the opportunity to just encourage people to check out things and then do the closing and the actual selling as a follow-up?
That's a great question, and it really depends. I hate that answer, but it depends on the business. And what I would say is every company has some sort of a sales funnel, and you've got a lead coming in. So think of the person that you're meeting right at the show, a cold, they stop by your booth. They are coming in the very top of the funnel as a lead. And now it's up to me to figure out, okay, how far can I get them down the sales funnel? And in some cases, maybe I could sell them right there at the show. And there's definitely a lot of shows, especially in the fashion industry, or anything having to do with retail. Maybe buyers are going to be there at the show and they're writing orders. So you might be able to sell people right at the show. Or maybe you have a small business and you're selling food products or something, and you could sell products right there at the show. But then there's other industries, maybe it's a high-end piece of equipment, and that equipment costs $200,000 and you're not selling those at the show. So you've got to figure out what is realistic to get people as far down that sales funnel as possible right there at the show and set up that next step to get eventually to a sale. But maybe it's, hey, we're scheduling a demo of our product, or we're scheduling a meeting with the decision makers, or whatever it is. You figure out how far you can get down with that person you're talking to right there at the show, and then schedule the next step right while you're there. But you got to plan that out ahead of time. It's all part of this planning out the strategy so that you can do it effectively at the show, and your people aren't caught shorthanded, or that they're not prepared to take people to that place, and all of a sudden you just come back with a whole bunch of business cards, and your sales reps are making the follow-ups and find out that most of these people haven't been qualified, and then now they're wasting a whole bunch of time and energy. And so it's really understanding, what can I do at this show? How far can I take this conversation before I have to stop it, and then figure out what the next step is outside the show? It's a great question. But yeah, it's going to depend on every business. It's going to be a little different.
Most exhibitors are trying to pass out some sort of trinkets at these shows. Is there the ideal giveaway or thing that somebody could take with them to remind them of it? You've got notepads, you got silly styrofoam things, you just got, I don't know, or candy. Is candy good for getting people to stop at the show booth?
Candy is very popular. Candy is very popular. I don't know. Candy is one of those things that I think is just a nice to have. It's if you have it, great. If you don't, great. I don't think it's going to really make a difference one way or another. I'm a big fan of mints because if I'm at the booth and if I am talking to people all day, I want to be popping mints. So if we have a bowl of mints there, that's great. Because if they have chocolate there, I'm going to be personally, I've got a huge sweet tooth. I'm going to be dipping in the chocolate at some point, and that I don't know. That next person walks by, I just ate that Hershey Kiss or whatever it was, and now I've got some chocolate on my teeth, and they can't hear a word I'm saying because they're focused on this. This guy just ate a piece of chocolate. Right. They know because they could see it on my teeth. But as far as candy, all that stuff, as far as giveaways, things where you have your company logo on those on them, I love things that people are going to hold on to. Like you said, a notepad, a Post-it note, a pen, all those are solid giveaways, but everyone does them. So you have to make sure that yours are going to stick with them. So make sure if it's a pen, you've got samples of the pen, you've written with them, make sure they're high quality. because I've had people pick up a pen that looks fantastic and they're like, wow, this is a great pen and it feels good. And then you go to write with it and it doesn't write very well. It's very clunky. And guess what, where that pen is going? The garbage,
Yeah.
along with your logo.
Yeah.
So that was a waste of money to get a lower quality item. What I like to do is maybe you can have an item like that's a giveaway. Talk with whatever professional that you work with. There's a couple companies I work with that I love working with because they're very strategic. So they say, okay, what's your company do? What are your goals? Okay, what's your budget? And they bring solutions to you that might be something a little bit different that not everybody else is giving out. So it's not just a pen, it's not just a notepad, but maybe it's something that people are going like, wow, I've never seen this before, or this is different, or this is very useful. So if you have a automotive type of thing, maybe it's a tire gauge, or it's something that is automotive related, so that people remember your company, remember your name, and things like that. I like having that low end item, and then I like having what I call like a sales close type of item, a higher end. Maybe it's a $20 value, a Yeti mug or something like that. But you don't have those out on the table. Those
Right.
are underneath the table. You have a great conversation with someone and you know it, and you've scheduled that follow up. And before they leave, you're like, hey, hold on a second, I got something for you. And you pull this out,
Excellent.
and they're like, whoa. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, it's a high value item. They know these things are expensive, or maybe it's a
Right.
pen, but it's a cross pen. It's a 25, 30, $50 pen,
Wow.
depending on the industry, depending on how good that conversation was. But you have a
Mhm.
handful of those that you can pull out and be very strategic with your that attendee, so that they not only remember you, but now they can't wait to talk to you again. But yeah, it just being strategic and talking with the professionals that work in that industry. They know all the new products that are coming and they know all the trends. It's hard to stay on top of that if you're not living it day to day. And so I rely on some of the partners that I deal with
Mm.
in that line.
Are contests effective at trade shows?
Can be very effective if you're giving away something like you're giving away an iPad or a laptop or some high-end product. It could be very effective as long as it's not just someone coming up and throwing a business card into a fishbowl.
Right.
What you want to do, you want to qualify these people as much as possible. You want to get as much information from them. And so I always tell the people running the booths, or if they're a sales rep, what information, when you go on a sales call, what information do you need to know from them?
Mm.
What questions do you ask them? Oh, what's your budget for the product that we sell? How often do you buy our products? Whatever it is, what is that? And then ask those exact questions. Maybe you have a form that they fill out, or you could do it electronic. You can have a form on an iPad or a laptop or something so people can quickly fill something out. But they have to answer those questions to be able to enter the drawing, so that when you go to do your follow-ups, you already have all that information, and you've shortcut the time. And now that contest has become extremely effective. Now it's well worth forking out $1,000 for a nice prize, because that drew people in, and now you've qualified them. And so the people that aren't qualified, you don't spend your time on all the follow-ups. Maybe there are follow-ups later down the line, but you have the hot leads up front that you could do your follow-up. And it's all about how you effectively use that promotion. If it's the right product, don't cheap out. Don't
Mhm.
people aren't going to stop by your booth because you're giving away a $10 Starbucks card. That might be something that people would enjoy getting, but they're not going to stop and take the time to fill out a form for that. So make it something worth their while, but do it right. Do
That's
it
right.
right.
The fish bowls just are good for getting business cards and things like that, but you have no idea if it is
Right.
a competitor who has dropped in their business card in your fish bowl, and now you're giving out your big prize to your competitor. It's
Absolutely. It could
crazy.
definitely happen. I'm sure it's
Yes.
happened before.
How important
Yeah.
is follow up at a trade show or after a trade show?
Uh, that's it. That's everything. If you are not selling right there at the show and you're relying on your sales team, or if it's your own business, yourself, to do that follow up, you've got to have a process in place before the show starts, so that when you come back from that show, guess what? Life
Mhm.
happens. And
Yes.
you've been out of town for 3, 4 days, if it's one of those kind of shows, and you now have 3 or 4 days worth of phone calls and emails and stuff that you've been getting that you would have been responding to if you would have been back at the office or wherever. And so you have all this life that has happened and you've got to follow up on all that. Plus, you just brought home 150
Right.
150 leads that you need to follow up with. So it's, oh, shoot. And so many companies gets stuck in that trap and they end up doing the day-to-day stuff and they spend so much time on that. And then they finally get to the follow-up and then it's too late because guess what? Your competitors followed up before you did. And now that you've lost that opportunity.
Excellent.
Yeah. So because there's so many tools in place now, so much technology, you can set up a whole email response campaign ahead of time that as soon as you drop those email addresses in, they get email number one that says, thanks for stopping by our booth. And maybe you have a picture of your booth and to remind them. And you make that first connection. And maybe that's while they're still at the show, if you can just send off that very first email. And then the next email is going to be a little more specific. And then you follow up with a phone call or something. But you've got to be very timely or you've lost the opportunity. And so that's why scheduling everything out ahead of time, having it all planned out ahead of time, having all these emails written ahead of time, is so important to be as effective as possible. Because if you don't follow up, why'd you go to the show? You just spent a whole bunch of time at this show. Maybe you got your name out there, but that really that you can't take that to the bank and say, hey, all these companies learned about us.
That's right.
Yeah, but you still owe these bills. Until you sell something, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, the follow-up is probably the most important part of the show that's going to make or break it for you.
Trade shows are grueling on the exhibitors. In fact, it's absolutely brutal, the schedule that they have to go through. Many of these things start with 6 a.m. breakfast meetings, followed by a trade show have to be at the booth from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night. And then you got 30-minute break and then it's off to dinner. And after dinner, it's the after parties and all that other kind of stuff. And you to drag yourself into your hotel room at 1 o'clock in the morning and you have to be back at it at 5. What can exhibitors do to prepare themselves for these kind of schedules or for these events?
Oh my gosh, yes, you just described so many of these shows. They can be absolutely grueling. First of all, understand your schedule ahead of time and pace yourself. And if you're used to getting 7 hours of sleep, and you look at your schedule and go, oh shoot, I cannot do this. I'm going to be absolutely worthless if I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep. Then you maybe have to make some tough decisions. Maybe instead of that after hours networking thing where it's just going to be a bunch of people at a bar and drinking, it's not a bad thing to be at. You can make some great connections, but maybe that's something you skip. Or maybe you find someone on your team that you could send, okay, you're going to represent us at this thing. I'm going to be sleeping. And then instead of you being at that 6 a.m. meeting, just show up at the booth at 9 when the show starts. And so that you kind of pace everybody.
That's right.
You pace everybody, but you've got to also and this just goes for everybody in any industry at every walk of life. Take care of your health. Take care of your health. Get in good shape. Get into an exercise regimen. Eat healthy. So when you get to these shows and you've got these long, grueling days, you're not completely spent after the first day. You've got some fuel in the tank. Try to keep your routines as much as possible. So if you're used to getting 7 hours of sleep, try to get 7 hours of sleep. If you're used to eating pretty healthy, don't just, hey, I'm out of town, I'm in Vegas, I'm wherever, and you're hitting the buffets and you're going out for the steaks and all this stuff, and all of a sudden you feel like absolute garbage because you're not used to eating that way. I'm not saying you can't eat some of that stuff, but pace yourself. Be mindful of your habits. And Greg, you and I, we're not as young as we used to. So our metabolism is not quite as good as it used to be.
That's right.
So it's understanding your own habits, trying to stick to routines as much as possible, but try and eat healthy. Try and stick to, if you're used to exercising 3 times a week, then don't skip those. Stick to that. Make sure you get up. All these hotels have gyms in. Even if they're a small hotel, it should have some sort of a gym with a treadmill or something, or go out for a walk or something.
Right.
but take good care of yourself and also make sure you are wearing comfortable shoes.
Exactly.
Comfortable
That's
and
right.
broken in shoes. Don't buy a brand new pair of shoes, no matter how comfortable they feel at the shoe store, you will get blisters. So make sure you've got a good, comfortable pair of broken in shoes. I
Right.
made that mistake
Mhm.
before and it was
Absolutely.
brutal.
One of the things that bugs me about trade shows is that people like go to Las Vegas, and what stays in Vegas or what happens in
Oh,
Vegas stays in Vegas. And
yeah.
these middle-aged people will be coming back to their booth the next day going, "Man, I got so wasted last night." And how effective are they if they're going to be the following day? It
Oh,
just,
yeah.
is there
I've been there
recommendation to
many
them
times.
on avoiding that kind of thing? Or is it okay to go out and party with the animals?
And I just had a meeting with a client and this was part of the agenda. I said, drink responsibly.
Right.
Yeah, if you want to go out and go to the bar and stuff, go have a drink, fine. Don't have five. Don't drink to excess just because you can. Just because you're home or you went to the hotel bar and all you have to do is stumble to the elevator and make your way up to your room because the next day you're going to be hurting. You're going
Right.
to be worthless for your team and you're not there to drink. You're there to represent your company. You're there to perform at the booth and to get results. And I've been at a show before where we had someone pass out at the bar and it's just not good. And the next morning the person couldn't wake up. They looked like absolute
Exactly.
garbage when they got to the booth. They hadn't ironed anything, and it looked like they slept in their clothes, which they may have. I don't know, but yeah, you just want to avoid that and just be smart about it. Yeah, go have a drink. Not saying that you can't have any fun or anything like that, but be smart about it because you're there to do a job. That's number one. That's number one.
I remember being at a show once where they had a party at a bar in Las Vegas on one of these areas that are overlooking the city. And the company that was putting on the event had spent a lot of money doing that. And to have a member of a company or a media organization go there, get drunk, and start saying
Oh,
things about that company, it
oh,
was just a dumb thing for that thing to do. When you get drunk or you go to these events and do that kind of stuff and you lose your inhibitions and things like that, you're going to pay a big price later, I imagine.
that's a great point. I didn't even touch on that, but
Hmm.
yeah, when you are out drinking, people just start saying things that they probably shouldn't say, and they don't even
Exactly.
realize,
That's right.
"Oh, I can handle my liquor." Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you might not fall down drunk, but
Yep.
people get loud and they start saying stuff, and yeah, you just
Acting
don't wanna be in that
inappropriately.
situation.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes. Next thing you know,
absolutely.
your HR department has a complaint about the sexual harassment
Yeah.
that's going on at these
Oh
shows,
my
right?
gosh, I hope not, but yeah, I'm sure it's happened, and I'm
Exactly.
sure it's not gonna be the last time
That's
that's
right.
happened. Yeah, use your team wisely and
Right.
understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and use them accordingly. Use them accordingly. Don't put all your engineers out front trying to engage with people. Let them
Right.
answer questions about all the technical stuff and let your people who are outgoing and love engaging with people, put them out in front of your booth. There's so much strategy here.
Exactly.
And just to piggyback on what you just said. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever thought about developing a course for people to train them how to do a trade show?
Oh my gosh. Yes. In fact, for Trade Show University, it was just the name, and I thought it was going to be a clever name early on. And so I've had the podcast for over 5 years now, started in 2019, right before the pandemic. Not a good time to have a podcast about trade shows when every trade show around the globe got canceled. But over time, I have built up such a library of fantastic content for exhibitors on a wide range of topics. We talked about the logoed items, the giveaway items. I've had
Mhm.
a couple different people on to talk specifically about that topic, or we talk about email marketing, we talk about using video, we talk about displays, all sorts of stuff. I have 260 or whatever episodes of that. And so now I am starting to develop the true university, and it's going to be a learning platform. So my very first course is coming out, and it is going to be goal setting for trade shows. It's a goal setting course, and we may have been through goal setting courses before, but this one is specifically designed for trade show exhibitors.
Good.
And it can be an absolute game changer. And people are like, oh, yeah, I know how to set goals. And so, no, you've never done it this way. I guarantee it. You've never done it this way. And it's a game changer. So I'm really excited that's going to be launching very soon. And yeah, it's a 5-video course. And it goes very deep into doing it the right way. And you can take as much or a little from the course as you want, but it's really going to be a game changer. And I can't wait to get it out there.
What is your favorite trade show that you've ever attended?
Wow. Favorite trade show. Dang. I like that. Just from a memory standpoint, that Philadelphia Candy Show. I don't know what it's called today. I'm sure it has a different name, but back then we just called it the Philadelphia Candy Show, just from the experience. And plus I was brand new. And so all that. But for me, just about every show I go to, and I'm like a little kid. I'm like a little kid in a kid store, no pun intended. But I just love going there because it's the individual exhibitors that light me up. And I love just seeing their excitement, and I love seeing how they're bringing themselves forward. I'm a marketing guy at heart. And so I love the messaging, the branding, what they're doing. And I love seeing all that. But there's a lot of shows. Some of the venues are fantastic, and some of these shows will have these keynote speakers, and they'll have a lot of other things that they have available, like breakout sessions and workshops and seminars. And if you're going to a show and you're exhibiting, make sure you understand all that stuff too. Don't miss out there might be a workshop there that you need to be part of, or maybe you can have a speaking gig and give a presentation yourself that presents you as a thought leader. So I guess that was a horrible answer to what's my favorite show. But I think the bigger the show, the more excited I get, because there's just so much more excitement and there's so much bigness. I guess it's just a bad word, but just the spectacle of the whole thing, the lights, the sounds. And the bigger the show you get, more creativity you get. There's big budgets, and you'll be smelling popcorn, and someone's popping popcorn, and they'll have a barista, and they're making special little shapes and designs on top of the coffees. And there's so much that is there. It's just the excitement. So just immerse yourself. If you're going as an attendee, it's just awesome.
Right.
And just go and immerse yourself into everything there. But know why you're going. You gotta have a plan, or else it's like those people that go to Disneyland or Disney World and they don't have a plan of attack, and they just go and say, hey, we're just going to go and see what it's like. And they have a miserable time because there's so much and there's so many lines, and it's how do I attack this? It's the same thing with the show is, what do I want to get out of this show, and take the time to really attack it. Gosh, I go all in circles. My apologies to everyone watching this thing, because I get all excited about shows. But yeah, you can find joy in every trade show. At least I do.
If you're attending a trade show, the most important thing to do is networking, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. You make those, and if you're exhibiting, networking is still probably one of the most important things you can do. And like our good mutual friend Vincent Puglisi says, it's the magic that happens when you're in line for registration. You start up a conversation,
right.
Or you're in the hallway in between sessions, and you find somebody and you start talking about, hey, what company are you from? Why are you here? What are you trying to get out of it? Oh, you know what? I have someone you need to meet. And all of a sudden you're making connections to somebody. And that's the magic. That's where true value can really come from it. That is, you can't find it in the show guide or on the website. That's going to happen. You got to make it happen, but it's got to be intentional.
And it's so simple. It starts with, hi, my name's Greg. Where are you from? And that's
absolutely.
Don't be afraid to go first, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Yeah. For me, I'm an introvert by nature. I'm one of those people that if I have a choice of going out for a steak dinner with a bunch of people, or heading to the bar, or going back to my room, I'm back in my room. That's just me, but I've forced myself. I've come to see the value of it, and I really love networking with people and going out and doing those extra things, and approaching people that I never would have before. Yeah. I don't like talking to people just where it's awkward. I don't know them. They don't know me, but I've come to surprise myself in what the connections I've made just by going up. Like you said, just going up. Hey, you're here at the show. I see we're wearing the same lanyard. We have the same name badge on it, so I know you're at the same show I am. Why are you here? Where are you from? What city are you from? Yeah, and all of a sudden you find commonalities, and you might build a friendship. You just don't know where that's going to go.
Exactly.
It's just awesome.
How can people get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about your course or just to talk to you about trade shows?
Yes. Oh, I would love it. Check me on LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn and Facebook. So just look up Jim Cermak. And also my website is tradeshowu.biz. So tradeshowu is tradeshow the letter u.biz is the website. And hopefully by the time this airs, the website will be back up because we're under construction right now, but because we're renovating so that we're becoming a true learning platform. But there will be all sorts of services that we provide, as well as the resources that are available to you. And check out on Spotify and on YouTube. Look up Trade Show University. We've got tons of content out there for you.
Super. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us today. Yeah, you're obviously passionate about this.
Probably a little too much, but thank you. And I love being able to talk to someone who's been there and knows the industry and has been to trade shows, because then it makes the conversation so much better. And I really appreciate you and thank you for the opportunity to come out and talk about something I love.
That was a very informative interview with Jim Cermak, the founder of the Trade Show University podcast. If you want to get more value out of your next trade show, either as an exhibitor or an attendee, Jim delivered a goldmine of tips during this conversation. For exhibitors, preparation is everything. It starts with setting crystal clear goals months before the show and building a strategy to cover everything from display design and messaging to who should be staffing the booth. Remember, your booth is like a billboard, not a brochure. People need to understand what you're offering at a glance, and your team needs to be engaged, off their phones, and ready to connect. As Jim said, you only get one chance to catch someone walking by. Miss that opportunity, and you might never see him or her again. He also emphasized the importance of follow-up. It is arguably the most critical part of the entire trade show process. Without a solid plan in place before the event, those 150 leads you collect could easily fall through the cracks while you're catching up on emails post-show. Automated email campaigns and fast touchpoints help keep the momentum alive. For attendees, trade shows are about more than just collecting swag. Go in with a plan, focus on networking and learning. Some of the best connections happen in the hallways or while waiting in line. Start simple conversations because you'll never know where they'll lead. Whether you're new to trade shows or a seasoned veteran, Jim's insights can dramatically boost your return on investment. If you're interested in diving deeper, be sure to check out Jim's upcoming course on goal setting for trade shows at tradeshowu.biz or look up the Trade Show University podcast on Spotify and YouTube. That's all for this week's show. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like this show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.